Welcome back to the British Accent Podcast. Today, Nick and I want to talk about something that often makes learners feel stuck: grammar. So many people think, I can't speak English until my grammar is perfect. But the truth is, you don't need perfect grammar to communicate.
Absolutely. We see this all the time. Learners delay speaking because they are afraid of making grammar mistakes. But communication is not about being flawless, it's about being understood. Think about when you travel to a country where you don't speak the language. If someone uses broken English with you, do you still understand them? Of course, you do.
Exactly. People usually don't care if your verb tense is slightly off, or if you miss an article like the or a. They care about the message. What are you trying to say? That's what communication is all about. Perfect grammar can wait, connection comes first.
And if we look at native speakers, they don't always use perfect grammar either. In everyday conversation, people cut words, they make mistakes, they speak in fragments. For example, instead of saying, I do not have any money, most people just say, I don't got money. Grammatically, that's not correct, but everyone understands it.
That's such a good point. And for learners, the pressure of grammar can stop fluency. When you pause too much to think about rules, you lose the natural flow of conversation. It's better to speak with small mistakes than to stay silent. Your confidence grows when you practice speaking, not when you sit quietly remembering grammar charts.
Yes, and the funny thing is, grammar often improves naturally the more you speak. Your brain notices patterns. You hear native speakers, you copy them, and slowly your grammar gets better without you even thinking about it.
So if you're listening right now and you're worried about your grammar, relax. Focus on clarity, not perfection. Make eye contact, use gestures, speak with energy, and let your words flow. The goal is connection, not grammar exams.
And you know what, Emily? Sometimes I notice learners actually freeze in conversation because they are scanning every sentence in their head for mistakes before speaking. That moment of hesitation is what kills the flow, not the grammar itself.
Exactly. And here's the thing, in real communication, people are not analyzing your grammar with a red pen like a teacher in school. They're listening for your ideas, your emotions, your energy. If you're excited, curious, or even nervous, that's what they'll remember, not whether you said, he go instead of he goes.
Right. And funny enough, native speakers make grammar mistakes all the time in casual conversation. We cut words, we mix tenses, we say things that technically aren't correct, but communication keeps flowing. That's what language is: alive, flexible, human.
Yes, and once you accept that, you start to feel free. You realize, okay, I can express myself with the tools I have now. I don't need to wait until I master every tense or memorize every rule. The act of communicating itself becomes your practice ground.
And the more you do it, the more naturally your grammar improves anyway. Because your brain begins to notice patterns. You hear a structure again and again, and then one day you're just using it without thinking.
Which is such a relief, isn't it? Like, instead of sitting down and saying, I must study present perfect for 2 more hours, you just live the language, watch a show, chat with someone, write a quick message, and grammar grows in the background.
So I guess the big takeaway here is this: grammar is important, but it's not the gatekeeper to communication. You don't need to perfect it before you start speaking. You learn grammar best by speaking, making mistakes, and letting your brain adjust over time.
That's beautifully put. And it really gives learners permission to let go of the fear, to stop waiting for the perfect moment when their English is flawless. That moment never comes. But the moment to communicate. That's right now.
I think one reason learners get stuck on grammar is because they see it as a test they have to pass, instead of a tool they can use. It's like when you learn to drive a car, you don't memorize the manual word for word, you get in the car and you practice.
Yes, and that's why I often suggest people focus on patterns instead of rules. For example, if you hear native speakers saying, "I'm gonna go," instead of, "I am going to go," you don't need to analyze it. You just need to recognize the pattern and try it out. Over time, it becomes natural.
Exactly. It's exposure plus practice. And the more you use English in real situations, the more natural those patterns become. Grammar will follow.
Another important point: communication is about connection, not perfection. People will remember how you made them feel, not whether you used the past perfect correctly.
Totally. And actually, sometimes mistakes can even make the conversation more fun or more human. I've seen learners make a wrong sentence that still gets the point across and even makes people laugh. That's not failure, that's success in communication.
That's so true. And when you stop obsessing over every tiny mistake, you actually gain confidence. Because instead of worrying, you're engaging. You're listening, responding, and expressing yourself.
Which is the whole point of language. So, grammar matters, but it's not the starting point. It's something you pick up along the way.
Right? You don't need perfect grammar to communicate, you just need the courage to start speaking, keep going, and let the learning happen as you move forward.
And you know, Emily, when I look back at the times I was learning another language, the best progress I made was when I stopped caring about being correct every second. When I just jumped into conversations, even with mistakes, people understood me, and that gave me confidence to keep going.
Yes. I had the same experience when I learned French. I used really simple grammar, but I used it a lot. And the more I spoke, the more natural it became. Later, I improved the grammar, but at the beginning, it was all about communication.
Exactly. And I think that's what learners need to hear. If you wait until you have perfect grammar, you'll wait forever. But if you start now, you'll get better grammar along the way.
And the good news is, grammar actually improves faster when you're using the language in real situations. Because you notice what sounds right, you pick up corrections naturally, and your brain starts to organize the rules without you even trying.
So in a way, communication isn't just the goal, it's the method. You don't need perfect grammar to communicate, but communication itself will eventually bring you closer to perfect grammar.
I love that, Nick. It's like you don't study forever and then finally earn the right to speak. You speak from day one, and grammar comes along for the ride.
And when you think about it, even native speakers don't have perfect grammar. People cut sentences short, mix tenses, use slang, and sometimes even break grammar rules completely, but nobody says they don't know the language.
Yes, like in daily conversations, people say things like, "I ain't got time," or "me and my friend went there." Grammatically, that's not correct according to a textbook, but it's still communication. Everyone understands it.
Right. And I think learners need to know that textbook grammar is not always how real conversations happen. If you spend too much time worrying about the rules, you'll freeze in the middle of a sentence, afraid to be wrong.
And that hesitation, those long pauses, actually make communication harder than the grammar mistake itself. People would rather hear you speak naturally, even with mistakes, than watch you struggle to make a perfect sentence.
Exactly. I always say, clarity over perfection. If someone understands your idea, you've succeeded.
And that success gives you more confidence. Then little by little, you can polish your grammar. But the priority is being understood.
Which also means learners should practice using the language, not just studying it. Reading grammar books is fine, but it doesn't replace real communication.
Yes, and it doesn't have to be formal practice. You can talk to yourself in English while cooking, walking, or cleaning. You can send short voice messages to friends. You can even think in English. All of these build communication skills, not just grammar knowledge.
And that's the secret, fluency comes from using the language, not waiting until it's perfect on paper.
For example, one technique I love is shadowing. You listen to a native speaker in a podcast, movie, or even YouTube, and then you repeat exactly what they say, matching their rhythm and intonation. You don't stop to analyze grammar, you just copy the flow.
Yes, that's powerful. It trains your brain to think less about rules and more about sound and connection. And the great thing is, you start absorbing grammar patterns naturally, the same way kids do when they learn their first language.
Another simple method is storytelling. You can tell a short story about your day in English, even if it's not perfect. Like, I wake up, I drink coffee, I go to work. As you practice, you'll automatically start adding details and improving structure without forcing it.
Exactly. It's like building layers. At first, your sentences are short, maybe even broken. But as you gain confidence, you naturally connect them. I woke up, and then I drank coffee before going to work. That growth happens because you're focused on sharing meaning, not memorizing grammar charts.
And let's not forget conversations with real people. Even short exchanges are gold. Saying hello to someone, asking how are you, or ordering food in English, all of that counts as practice.
Yes, and mistakes in those moments don't matter. In fact, they often help. If someone corrects you gently, you'll remember it much better than if you just read about it in a book.
I think many learners forget that native speakers are usually patient. They're not judging your grammar, they're just happy you're trying to communicate.
That's true. Most of the time, people only correct if it's necessary for understanding. Otherwise, they just listen and respond.
Which means learners should stop fearing mistakes. Mistakes aren't proof that you're bad at English, they're proof that you're using English.
And using English is the only way to improve.
And you know what's interesting, Nick? When we think about perfect grammar, most of the time it's not even the thing that makes someone sound good in English. It's usually rhythm, tone, and the confidence they carry when they speak.
Exactly. I've heard people who technically have flawless grammar, but they sound so robotic or stiff that it feels unnatural. Then, I've heard people with broken grammar, but they speak with so much energy and connection that you just want to listen to them.
Yes, and that's something learners need to remember. Communication is human to human. It's not a grammar exam. If you go to a cafe, you don't need to be like, "Excuse me, sir, may I please request a cup of coffee? When can I get a coffee?" Works perfectly fine.
That's such a good point. Sometimes I think learners put unnecessary pressure on themselves because they think English speakers are judging their grammar. But actually, most people are just listening for the message, not the structure.
Totally. Think about how many times we hear native speakers mess up grammar all the time. People say things like, "There's 5 people here," instead of "There are 5 people here," and nobody stops the conversation to correct them.
Right. And even in professional settings, like business meetings, people don't speak in perfect textbook grammar. They use shortcuts, half-finished sentences, or even mix up tenses, but the communication keeps going.
Which brings us to the mindset shift learners need. Your goal isn't perfection, it's connection. If you can share your ideas clearly enough that the other person understands, you're already winning.
Absolutely. And I think one powerful exercise learners can do is to intentionally allow themselves to speak without worrying about grammar for a few minutes. Just focus on getting the idea out. It trains your brain to prioritize communication.
That's a great tip. And over time, your grammar will naturally improve, because you'll notice patterns, you'll hear corrections, and you'll absorb what sounds right. But you don't need to wait until it's perfect to start talking.
Exactly. If you wait for perfection, you'll never speak. If you focus on communication, you'll grow faster than you think.
And you know what, Nick? Sometimes the most powerful conversations I've had with non-native speakers were the ones where grammar was the least important. What really mattered was the honesty, the emotion, and the effort. I could feel their excitement, their frustration, or their curiosity through the words, even if the sentences weren't correct. That's what true communication is.
Exactly. And if we take a step back, even in our own native languages, we don't speak with perfect grammar all the time. We leave words out, we interrupt ourselves, we use slang, we start sentences and then abandon them halfway. That's how natural speech works. So why would we hold English learners to a higher, stricter standard than we hold ourselves?
That's such a good reminder. It's almost like chasing perfect grammar is chasing an illusion. It's not how people truly speak. What's more important is whether people understand you, whether you can get your point across, and whether you can connect.
And I think learners need to remember, mistakes are not evidence of failure, they are evidence of learning. Every little, wrong moment is proof that you're actually using the language instead of keeping it locked in your notebook.
Exactly, Nick. And the irony is that the more you allow yourself to make mistakes and communicate freely, the faster your grammar actually improves over time, because you're practicing in real contexts.
So maybe the takeaway here is, don't let the fear of grammar hold your voice hostage. Your words, your stories, your ideas, they deserve to be heard, even if the grammar isn't perfect yet.
Yes, yes, yes. English isn't about perfection, it's about connection. And the sooner you embrace that, the sooner speaking becomes not just easier, but more joyful.
You know, Emily, this also ties into the psychology of learning. When learners constantly self-correct mid-sentence, they are not just fixing grammar, they are interrupting their flow of thought. And once that flow breaks, the anxiety doubles, because now they're thinking, oh no, I messed up, I need to restart. That cycle makes speaking feel exhausting instead of natural.
That's so true. And the opposite is also true. When you keep talking, even with small mistakes, your brain gets used to staying in English mode longer. That uninterrupted practice actually rewires your brain to think faster in English. It's like keeping the water running in a stream instead of blocking it with rocks.
Right, and honestly, some of the most charming conversations happen when mistakes sneak in. I've had learners say something wrong, but it made us laugh together in the best way, and that memory stuck. And you know what? They never forgot the correct way after that moment because it became personal, human, and memorable.
I love that. Mistakes as memories, not failures. And it makes me think, sometimes the obsession with grammar comes from the classroom setting, where every red mark feels like a judgment. But outside the classroom, people aren't grading you, they're just listening.
Exactly. No one's keeping a scorecard in a real cafe, or in a work meeting, or when you're making friends. People just want to hear what you have to say. And if you show confidence and keep going, they'll respect you far more than if you freeze because you're scared of being wrong.
And maybe learners need to flip the perspective. Instead of thinking, I must avoid mistakes, they could think, every mistake is a step closer to fluency. That mindset turns fear into fuel.
Yes. And when you free yourself from the weight of perfect grammar, your personality finally comes through. Because at the end of the day, people don't fall in love with your grammar, they fall in love with you.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? English is not about passing a test, or impressing someone with flawless sentences. It's about showing who you are, sharing your ideas, and connecting with people. Grammar has its place, but it should never hold you hostage.
Exactly. The moment you allow yourself to speak freely, even imperfectly, you open the door to real growth. Your confidence builds, your fluency grows, and grammar naturally catches up over time.
So to everyone listening, remember this. Don't let the fear of mistakes silence your voice. Speak, connect, laugh at the slips, and keep moving forward. Your English doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful, it just has to be yours.
Absolutely. We see this all the time. Learners delay speaking because they are afraid of making grammar mistakes. But communication is not about being flawless, it's about being understood. Think about when you travel to a country where you don't speak the language. If someone uses broken English with you, do you still understand them? Of course, you do.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and let your English flow.